People thought they were records that would never be broken, but then Lewis Hamilton showed up. Yes, the 7-time world champion is a very talented driver, but since joining Mercedes in 2013, he has also been on the best team in F1. It's one of the most important and controversial debates in the sport, and that's why in this video, we're going to talk about what makes Hamilton so special and how he became the best F1 driver, starting off with the man himself, Lewis Hamilton. Even though Hamilton's best years have been at Mercedes during the hybrid era, he had a lot of success before he was driving such a powerful car. To be exact, they have won 22 times and one world championship. The thing is, when Hamilton joined McLaren as a 22-year-old rookie in 2007, no one thought he would be able to compete with or beat teammate Fernando Alonso. But still, by the end of the season, he had won 4 races, finished ahead of the Spaniard on countback, and was only 2 points away from winning the title. If beating a 2-time world champion in the same car in your first season doesn't show talent, we don't know what does. He then did better the next year and won his first title, even though he didn't have the best car. In fact, it could be said that the Ferrari he was racing against was miles better. And even though his teammate wasn't the best driver, the fact that he was so far behind the leaderboard shows that Hamilton didn't win the title because of the car.
Here goes Verstappen, Lewis tries to cover him off, Verstappen through at turn 1, and he has made amends for getting held up in the pit lane.
Next, the transition from McLaren to Mercedes. Even though the Red Bull drivers had a much better car, he won 3 races in 2010 and was in the running for the championship until the last race. Despite all that, 2011 was probably his worst season, but he still won 3 times to keep his record of winning in every season he's driven in. And in 2012, Hamilton left McLaren for Mercedes, where he won 5 titles. It's safe to say that he's had the best car most of the time, but not always. In 2017 and 2018, Ferrari was often the same speed or even faster sometimes. Hamilton beat Sebastian Vettel's challenge both times, winning the title with 2 races to spare each time. And almost all of the time, he's also been ahead of the guy in the other Mercedes, with the major exception of 2016.
A threat, and this time Hamilton goes round the outside at turn 4, goes off the track in doing so. Verstappen keeps his place out in front.
What's more, it's the car, right? Well, regardless of how we look at it, this Mercedes team is the most dominant team in Formula One history. They have the most consecutive Constructors and Drivers' Championships, the most wins in a season, and the most 1-2 finishes. Their cars have been so good that Nico Rosberg won the World Championship driving one. Yes, the German was an excellent driver, but was he good enough to win the World Championship? We're not so sure. Still, his car was so far ahead of the others that it made it so. During the same time period in the sport, world champions like Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button have been stuck at the bottom of the grid with bad cars. And when Hamilton was at McLaren, the first one was still one of the best drivers, but he had a hard time even scoring points. His problems show that cars are more important than drivers these days. And if we really look at it, when Hamilton's car hasn't been the best of the field, it's safe to say he hasn't always been the best driver on the grid, or even close. During the 4 years that Red Bull was the best, Hamilton also lost to drivers whose cars weren't better than his. And in each of those races, Alonso beat him in a Ferrari that wasn't much better than the Brits' McLaren, if at all. But in 2011, Jenson Button beat him by a wide margin, and Michael Schumacher, who is compared to Lewis Hamilton in the GOAT debate, rarely had problems like Hamilton's before his comeback.
Once again, Hamilton gets a better exit. Now, round 10, 17, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen going wheel to wheel.
Moving on, what makes Hamilton so special? Qualifying, which happens on the Saturday before Sunday's main event, is a very important part of the race weekend because it can hugely affect how the race turns out, and Hamilton always delivers during qualifying. Lewis Hamilton has a record for qualifying that no one else has. He's just as good in the race as he is on the 1 or 2 lap shootouts. In only 288 races, he has started on the front row 173 times, first or second on the grid. This means that he has been in the first row in 60% of the races he has been in, and only 103 of these 173 first-row starts are pole positions. This is a Formula One record, by the way, and Michael Schumacher is in second place with 68 pole positions and is a long way behind Hamilton.
In contact, Verstappen gets past and almost runs over the front wing of Lewis Hamilton as he moves himself up into 10th place.
Not to mention, Hamilton can attack and defend well. It's great to be in the front row to start the race, but it doesn't matter if you can't keep your spot. Lewis Hamilton doesn't have any trouble with this because he is a good defender and always fights back when other drivers try to pass him. He can do this even though his tires are older and more worn than the tires on the car behind him. The best way to defend is to park your car in a way that makes it hard for the car behind you to try to pass you. It would be best if you didn't do this because it could hurt your own lap, leading to bad things later on. So defending yourself and doing it fairly is a fine art, and Lewis Hamilton has mastered it.
So this is my seat. This is my seating position. The seating position in the race car, obviously, it's quite inclined, it's quite comfortable. If you're sitting in the car, it's so easy to fall asleep.
Now, let's take a look at his offensive skills. The thing is, even when Hamilton has a bad qualifying session or has to start the race further back because of a grid penalty, he's just as good at passing other cars. And he's very good at putting his car in the right spot and putting a lot of pressure on the driver in front of him to try to make them make a mistake. Even though race leader Sebastian Vettel crashed into the barriers, which helped Hamilton a lot, and Valtteri Bottas was told by his team to stay behind him, it was a great display of his offensive skills. On top of that, during the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix, the British driver also showed how well he could pass other cars. After getting a grid penalty for taking a new power unit, he started the race in 10th place, but he once again showed why he is a 7-time world champion by expertly navigating the field to win. And all of this makes Lewis Hamilton one of the most complete drivers on the grid because he can both attack and defend well. This is helped even more by how well he takes care of his tires, which lets him stay ahead or have enough speed and grip to pass.
The last races, the cars have not been too bad, it's just the others have been faster. So I think this weekend, I think the Red Bulls are going to be particularly quick. I think they're going to be the really hard ones to beat.
Coming up next, Hamilton also performs well in the rain. Some drivers are better and more confident when it's raining than their other racing colleagues, and one of these drivers is Lewis Hamilton, who is at his best when it starts raining, as he knows how to handle dangerous conditions and can easily put in fast laps throughout the race. The best example of this was during the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix, where he won his 7th World Championship despite heavy rain. Even though he qualified poorly and had to start the race in 6th place, he quickly mastered the slippery Istanbul circuit and moved up through the pack. And he did this while many other drivers, including his teammate Valtteri Bottas, kept sliding off the track, which helped Hamilton's track position. So what makes him so good? Well, the 7-time world champion is so good because he can do well in various situations. More importantly, he doesn't get scared by slick racetracks, which has helped him become one of the best F1 drivers when it's raining. Lastly, so is it the Mercedes or the Mercedes man himself? Well, we're not saying he wouldn't have been as successful if he was driving a less powerful car. If Hamilton's car wasn't so much better, he wouldn't be on the verge of becoming the best driver ever in terms of statistics. But still, this doesn't change the fact that since he started racing, he has shown talent and speed that is rarely seen in the sport. In 13 seasons, he has only lost twice to a driver in the same car as him. Some say it's all because of his car, but it's unfair to discount all of his accomplishments and records. He has everything, and no matter what, he always delivers. But whether or not he is the best ever is an unanswerable question. There are too many factors and variables to call any driver the GOAT. The cars are different, the rules have changed, and the sport is not the same as it was even 5 years ago, let alone 50. But if we figured out how to travel through time, put all the people who said they could do it at their best in the same car, and let them compete against each other, we'd think he'd do fine. Obviously, as long as he could bring Bono with him. That's all for this video. Do you think Lewis Hamilton is the best Formula 1 driver ever to grace the sport? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.